Let's talk some more about food security in Africa. Joining us is African farmer Mogaji. He's the founder, Agric Business NG. Thank you for joining us at this time.
Thank you for having me.
Let's get your take, your assessment of Russia's invasion in Ukraine and on food security in Africa. What are some of those food types you think are likely to be affected by this? And do you see things worse as being predicted by a lot of, international partners?
Well, yes, excuse me. Yes, one of the main foods of staples that we've not been talking about is oil. Ukraine produces over 50% of global sunflower consumption. And when the sunflower oil is not available, it will put pressure on other oils, vegetable oils. So other oils will go very expensive very soon, especially end of this month. Yes, we've spoken about wheat, but we've not focused on maize. Ukraine produces 10% of global exports and production of corn, and corn affects all livestock generally, from cattle, poultry, pigs, dairy. Everything is dependent on corn. So as other countries will not be exporting corn for fear factor, basically, our livestock across Africa will be heavily challenged. Yes, we talk about wheat as wheat for flour. We don't talk about wheat bran, which is the back of the wheat, which is also used in livestock feed. So basically, we would have those really being affected. And almost all our multinationals that are involved in the FMCG value chain, all of them will be affected.
In terms of what you've listed, Nigeria appears to pride itself with some of the initiatives it's made in fertilizer, and this is also perhaps since 2016. This is also something we understand likely to be affected as a result of the invasion. Tell us if indeed we've cushioned that impact of the war on fertilizer, and perhaps what these other things you've mentioned, sunflower and maize and wheat, and how it can impact, really affect Nigeria now as a country.
Well, we would give something to this administration. I think in 2016, the president went to sign an agreement with some fertilizer companies in Morocco, which was very proactive. Now we will not be dependent on Russia, like U.S. has to pay dearly for their heavy reliance on fertilizer. And well, the Dangote that just came up is also supposed to cushion that effect. But I don't actually think that we may have that effect being cushioned, because don't forget, apart from OCP, which have plants in Nigeria, Dangote, to the best of my knowledge, also want to sell locally, but all of them are still business people. So you will find people from neighboring African countries come to Nigeria, buy these fertilizers, and take to other West African regions. So the people in Nigeria may actually be paying higher, which will eventually mean that we will not have access to the fertilizers. And I can tell you that is what is likely to play out. Because we currently can block rice from coming in. So how do we block fertilizer, which is about the same? So, but we won't be in a bad situation when we consider that we still have those bilateral agreements and those companies that have set up and the Dangote plant that have just sprang up.
Would you say that Africa has been able to diversify its agricultural imports following looming threats? I mean, climate change and then water scarcity. And on the other hand, can Africa be self-sufficient in food production?
Well, Africa ideally should be self-sufficient, but Africa is not as a whole. We're not self-sufficient. We heavily depend on foreign imports across board. Wheat I think about 20% of wheat in Russia comes to Africa. Africa is heavily dependent on wheat in Russia and Ukraine. And these are things we can produce ourselves. Even we may not have the comparative advantage, but we still can, produce what we need. Africa is not looking inward, and it's something more than 2 decades. We need to look inwards now. In fact, we need to bail Europe out now. Europe may have the money, they may have the infrastructure, we have the lands, we have the people, and climate is still better here than there because most of the lands in Europe and in US is overcultivated. So Africa is at the best time for Africa. We are well positioned, but we're not taking advantage of the things we can. Africa, it's a mindset thing, basically. It's not the resources that we have or we don't have. It's a mindset. It's a leadership thing. We don't believe in ourselves. But guess what? The foreigners believe in us and they are taking advantage, trying to do some barter here and there. But we need to believe in ourselves. And I've always said this, we need to have square pegs in square holes. Until we pay attention to agriculture across Africa, like the Europeans and Americans pay attention to that, we won't be able to take advantage of it. United States is heavily, when you say United States is united, it's agriculture that unites all those states together. And so we also need to come up with that, maybe United Africa, that is an agriculture value chain or ecosystem that binds us together. And especially when we look at it from regional, like West Africa, North Africa, but we need Africa to feed the world now.
Indeed. And perhaps on a final note, what are some of those policies that you expect from governments, Nigerian government, governments across Africa, and also how indeed you think security partners can also help?
Yeah. So,
To be having...
Can you hear me?
Yes, please, we can. Go right ahead.
Okay. So our youth policy in agriculture needs to be revamped. We focus too much on the Ministry of Agriculture as against the Ministry of Youth and Development. We need to find a way. Government across boards, 2 decades now, we've been trying to develop the sector, and it's always the same story. Funding not getting to the rural farmers in the capacity in which it needs to get there. So we need to revamp things. We need to bring a lot of media into the agri space. Without the media, we can't move forward. And beyond that, markets. Markets is very crucial. And our mechanization policy needs to be top-notch now. At best, left to me as a player across West Africa, we need to play low on just giving seed fertilizer chemicals and focus heavily on small-scale mechanization. We need more mechanization across Africa, and not trying to adopt and adapt Europe and US equipment. It doesn't work for us. Europeans and Americans are running away from their type of agriculture, and we are trying to embrace it. We need small scale. We need India's type of agriculture, India's types of equipment. Those are what we need here. And the African countries that are really doing well are embracing the China, Malaysia, and India model of small and medium scale mechanization. Mechanization should be top notch on any of the African governments' initiatives now for us to be food sufficient and for us to be able to take care of Europe right now. Because we need the Russia-Ukraine war, Africa needs to take care of Europe.
We do appreciate your time. Thank you for also joining us such short notice. African farmer, Mogaji, founder, business, Agric Business NG. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me.